Are you planning on visiting Madrid soon and you're looking for a great thing to do around there? Well, as a theme park enthusiast, it would be a bit ridiculous if I wouldn't recommend any other than a theme park, of course. So Madrid tourists, please do not miss out on one of Europe's most fun theme parks, Parque Warner Madrid, and let me tell you why. But first, why would you have to believe me? Who the hell am I? My name is Thibaut and I have been a theme park enthusiast since I was like, I don't know, 13 years old. Since then I visited 42 parks around the world. I did 196 roller coasters so far, and I am on a mission to at least visit another 122 parks to complete my theme park bucket list. So still a long way to go, which is why I do not call myself a theme park expert, but just an enthusiast who just loves visiting parks and riding roller coasters. But anyway, back to Spain. At the beginning of this week I visited Parque Warner Madrid together with my partner. Let me get you some pictures maybe or some videos from that day to share with you. So let's start at the beginning. We arrived at around 12 at the entrance gate. We took a bus from Madrid city center, which is very convenient. So there's like a shuttle bus between the city center and the park, which is around a half an hour drive, and it was I think €9 for one person just from the city center to the park. So we arrived there around 12 because the parks in Madrid, they all open around 12. I'm always used to parks opening around 10 or 9 or something like that. But in Madrid, they are opened at 12. But compared to other parks, they are open very late in the evening. Nevertheless, we arrived there at 12. It was a very, very sunny day. It was like 35 degrees Celsius. I was almost melting away. But yeah, so we arrived at the park, which has like an entrance based on like old movie studios. The entrance arch. How do you pronounce this? I don't know. Whatever. So at the entrance plaza there you have like those Looney Tunes statues, because the park has some themed areas based on movie or cartoon franchises like the Looney Tunes, DC comics like Batman, Superman and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we already had some Looney Tunes statues. I think that is, I'm not sure, Daffy Duck, or is he called like that? And Bugs Bunny? I know Bugs Bunny. Then when entering the park you had this kind of main street where you feel like being in Hollywood. It reminded me a bit of the main entrance of like Disney's Hollywood Studios, for example. But the one in Orlando in Disney's Hollywood Studios, it's a bit more nicer. The one here, it's not bad, but it was a bit lifeless. Hard to tell why, because when looking at the videos it looked nice, but when being there it felt a bit, yeah, dull. Yeah, don't know why. But then, at the end of that main street, you have like a beautiful view of not only a drop tower, which is cool to see, but also the one and only thing, no, not the only thing, the one and biggest thing I wanted to do in that park. And that was the newest ride, Batman Gotham City Escape, which is a multi-launch coaster from Intamin. It's a bit comparable to, like, for example, Toutatis in Parc Astérix, but it's different. But really, if you walk up that main street and you see that view at the end of that main street, that big top hat of that coaster, it's like, yeah, a peak moment in my theme park nerdness. It was like, oh my god, I need to ride it. I need to really ride that thing. I mean, look at this thing. Look at this thing. Amazing. Ah, I want to go back already. Alright, we walked up to that coaster. I was in awe when I saw that thing. And I, of course, had to ride this thing immediately. Now, what did I think of the ride? I'm not going to spoil it yet. I'm going to leave that for later in this video. I'm going to go over the second ride I did that day. Let me get back to this ride later in the video. Can you tell how excited I am about this ride? So, second ride we did that day was the drop tower, which you also saw at the end of the main street. It's called Riddler's Revenge. This is an SNS shot and drop tower. For the ones that don't know, shot and drop tower is like a free fall tower where you're being shot upward and then being dropped again. This drop tower is like 3 drop towers connected to each other, and they all have like different kind of ride sequences. There is like the ride sequence where you're going slowly to the top and then being released from the top. But there's also like the ride sequence that we experience where you're being really shot upwards and then dropped again and shot again upwards and then dropped again. And yeah, now my opinion about this ride, I liked it, but not as much as I thought I would like it. 6 weeks earlier, I've been on another shot and drop tower from the same manufacturer as NES in Bakken, near Copenhagen. That shot and drop tower is a lot smaller than the one in Parque Warner, but honestly, I enjoyed that one a lot more actually, because of the amount of airtime. I was really kind of disappointed with the one in Parque Warner because, yeah, you're being shot upwards at a high speed, which is really cool. But at the one in Bakken, you were, yeah, launched upwards also, but the drop down was more like you're being pulled downwards, where the one in Parque Warner was more like, yeah, you were sitting there, you're being shot upwards, which was really cool, but then going down was like, nah, okay, yeah, been there, done that, that was okay. While in Bakken, I really had a feeling like, whoa, holy this airtime is intense, and yeah, very different. It's very strange because I would think that the smaller drop tower in Bakken would be less intense than this bigger one, but apparently it's not the case. So I was kind of disappointed by this one. Nevertheless, still a fun ride, of course, but I expected more. Next up was another Batman coaster, because yes, this park has 2 Batman coasters. You have Batman Gotham City Escape, which is the newest ride from Intamin, the LSM launch coaster. The second Batman coaster is a suspended coaster actually from the Swiss manufacturer B&M. You can find similar rides like this in many parks around the world. Some examples: Osiris in Parc Astérix, Black Mamba in Phantasialand, Boat Monsters in Tivoli Grönaland. How do you pronounce that? I don't know. Alligator, but also similar rides like this one, exact similar rides in Six Flags parks in America, for example. So this is such a good suspended coaster, really. The pacing is really nice, the length is really nice, the speed is really nice, the inversions are really cool. Such a fun ride, really. I really enjoyed this one. I have to admit, in the United States, I already did the same kind of layout model from the suspended coaster. It was also a Batman ride, so I already knew what to expect, but it was, yeah, quite some years ago, so I was really glad to experience it again. And when thinking back about the ones I did in America, I wasn't really convinced about this coaster, but now that I did it here in Europe, for some reason I really liked it a lot more this time. Next up was Superman, which is a floorless coaster, also from the Swiss manufacturer B&M. I don't know what I have to think about this ride. I don't think I really enjoyed this ride. It's quite an intense one actually. It's smooth, but not the smoothest one. It's just very intense. You have like a very intense drop. At some moments I had almost like graying out. I was not expecting that actually. I have done some floorless coasters from B&M. I have done bigger rides like this, but this one was way intenser than I expected, and not sure if I liked it. Nah. But then the biggest surprise, Stunt Fall. This ride is so much fun. Yeah, we all know like the standard Vekoma boomerang coaster. I think it's like the most sold coaster layout in the entire world. I'm not sure how many boomerang coasters there are in the world, but there are a lot of them. But this one is like the bigger model. It's the giant inverted boomerang, so it's like a much more bigger model, but also an inverted one. So you're basically on a suspended coaster, just like the Batman coaster I talked earlier about. But it's so cool. The lift hill is not like 45 degrees like on boomerang coasters, but like really 90 degrees. You're going up way higher than normal boomerang coasters. So when you're going up, you're hanging there, dangling, looking straight down. And then that moment when you drop from that tower after going up the lift hill, seriously, that free fall effect was so cool. I really enjoyed that. But then the rest of the ride, I was expecting, and sorry Vekoma to say this, but I was expecting a rough ride. Old Vekoma coasters like this one, they don't really have a reputation of being very smooth rides. Nowadays Vekoma with their next generation coasters has some very smooth and very good coasters. but they used to be known for like not being the smoothest ride manufacturer. So I was expecting kind of a rough ride here. But honestly, it was surprisingly smooth. The only thing that I didn't like about this ride was the fact that they always had to wait for a full train before they would start the ride. So you always had to wait like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the whole train was full, which a bit, that kind of sucked. And then you have when they start the ride. So you're strapped in, you have the restraints on, locked and all, checked and all. Normally when they start a ride, it's like they push a button, you hear like a soft bell or a ring or anything like that, or just nothing, and the ride starts. With this one, you have like the loudest horn that I ever heard on a roller coaster. It was like, it scared the shit out of me every time. At some point I was like already knowing what to expect. I was like sitting there in the train, waiting, burp. Okay, now I can relax. It was ridiculously loud, but nevertheless, the rest of the ride is loved it so much. Maybe because I was expecting a bad ride. Maybe that's it. Maybe if I expected a very good ride, I would be disappointed. I don't know, but I expected a very bad ride actually, and it was so much better than expected. I really enjoyed this one. Alright, I'm a little bit tired of sitting here, so follow me, my precious theme park enthusiasts, to the couch. There we go. Alright, so I talked about Stunt Fall. After that we went for some lunch. We had some not really that special theme park food, which is just like Kentucky Fried Chicken kind of stuff. It was a big bucket, it was a really big bucket actually. I couldn't finish it all, but it was okay. It was not the best, but it was okay. After that lunch we went a bit further into the park to the more like kids area. Not really my kind of stuff, because I'm more into thrilling coasters and thrilling rides. I'm not really the target audience of kids rides and such, but if you're there, you have to try it, of course. So we did the Tom and Jerry coaster, which is a Zierer coaster, which is a very popular model for a family coaster rides. The same layout can be found as a Like Me coaster in Plopsaland de Panne, for example. It's not a very good coaster, but it's nice for kids. So after we got on that ride, we got on the Rapids River, which is really fun but wet ride. A few weeks earlier I was in Parc Astérix and I experienced Le Grand Splash, which is kind of a spill water ride, and that one was really wet. I thought that was the wettest one in Europe, but I clearly hadn't been on a water ride in Spain yet, because all the water rides in Spain, they are not meant to come out dry. Really, they are so wet. But of course, because of the weather, it was 35 degrees Celsius, so I can imagine these parks have a lot of water rides. A few months ago I was in Walibi, Belgium. I did Raja River, which is also a rapid river. It was very cold that day and I was very wet. It was hell. I was freezing to death. But here I loved getting soaked. Next to that, Correcaminos Bip Bip. I'm not sure if that sounded anything like Spanish, but I really like the name of this ride. Is it Roadrunner? The one that does like beep beep and then doesn't matter. It was enjoyable. It's the same coaster model, like for example Pegasus in Europa Park. It was a nice family ride, but I'm not really the target audience of this kind of ride. I think it's fun with kids, but it's nothing that special, to be honest. Beep beep. Oh, this is so ridiculous. After the kids area, we went all the way to the more like far west area of the park, where they have like 2 water rides and 1 coaster. The 2 water rides, great rides. I really enjoyed these, especially the Super Flume, which is kind of a mix between a spill water ride and a log flume. It was quite surprising. I wasn't expecting, and spoiler alert, if you haven't done this ride yet, move on if you don't want to hear anything about this ride. But I wasn't expecting this ride to go backwards at some point. I was like, oh, this is fun. But then after being on that turntable going backwards, I was just expecting like a drop down and that was it. But no, it was like a drop down, and immediately after it went up again and down. It was like an airtime hill kind of stuff. It was not what I was expecting, but it was so cool actually. I really was surprised by that. And that ride, the end splash, soaked again. But of course with that heat, I was dry immediately, so I couldn't care less. Close to that water ride, you also have like the spill water ride, which is like the bigger boats, bigger splash. It was not as nice as the super flume kind of thing, but it was also, very wet, like all those rides did. In this Far West area, you also had Coaster Express, which is a wooden coaster, and I was not expecting a lot of this coaster because I heard a lot of stories that it's quite rough, it's not really good. So I wasn't expecting a lot, but still, I was really disappointed actually. This ride, it's a high one. It goes pretty fast. It was not as rough as I had expected, but still the layout of the ride is quite boring. It's a big ride and it's a very extensive layout, so it takes a lot of space, but because of that, like the turns and the twists and turns and the hills up and down are very stretched out, which really took away like the fun in the ride. It wasn't what I was expecting. No. Not a good wooden coaster. I've done so much better wooden coasters like Wodan, Troy, more recently Falcon in front of Summerland, for example. Better coasters. And then afterwards, after that coaster, I think we did all the main rides, all the big rides which we wanted to do that day. And we went for a second time on the newest ride, Batman Gotham City Escape. But as I told earlier in the video, I was going to talk more about that ride. So here we are. Let's talk about Batman Gotham City Escape, the newest Intamin launch coaster. What did I think of this ride? First of all, the queue area outside is not that spectacular. But then once you're inside the building, it's quite a nice queue actually. First of all, you have like a spoiler alert again. Please fast forward if you don't want to hear anything. Did you fast forward? Okay. The ones that are still here. So once you're in the building, you have like a pre-show where you're first being welcomed in the Wayne Manor from Batman. I think it's Bruce Wayne, I'm not sure exactly. Whatever. So you're welcomed in his castle, Wayne Manor, and you get an explanation about a tour you're going to follow in his manor. But then suddenly the screen changes and you see like the Joker. He's planning on doing something. There is like what he calls laughing gas coming out of the chimney. Pretty cool effect. And then suddenly there's like, we have to escape here. The emergency lights go on and sounds go on. And there is like a wall with books that opens up to a secret emergency exit. So once you go through that exit, you come into like the Batman cave kind of thing where you see all this Batman stuff. I don't know how to call this. And then afterwards you're going even further and you're coming into like a underground metro station, which I guess isn't being used. It's a very nice environment. It's nicely done. And then you're already at the station. You have there the nice looking Batman styled Intamin trains. They're not as long as the ones on Toutatis or Conda, for example, or Taron. They're very short trains, but that actually doesn't matter. So then you're locked in, you have the restraints on, you're going through a small dark ride section, which is a bit short. And then you launch out of the building, you get into the first inversion already, which is pretty cool. And then you have like the first real bigger launch. You go up that top hat, which you see at the end of the main street at the beginning of the park. And then you have like a really cool moment where you're just hanging there, slowly going over that top hat. And the cool thing is the audio in the train really adds a bit to that experience, because you have like this moment where there's like Spanish kind of talking, but at some point you're hanging there, then you suddenly hear like vamos, which I think means go in Spanish, and at that moment the drop accelerates. It really matched very well, and it was a nice touch to that drop actually. Then the rest of the ride is so much fun. You have a lot of airtime hills, you have a lot of inversions, you have the stall inversion, which is really nice. You're hanging there for a few seconds, it seems. And then the ending of the ride is pretty cool. So you're entering, like the station building quite fast again at a ridiculous speed, where you're thinking, okay, this is not the end yet. But suddenly you end up in the brakes and you go like up a small spike, braking fast, which is a pretty cool effect actually. It was very unexpected because you're going down very fast and suddenly whoosh, and it stops. It was pretty cool. Then you have like this turntable at the end and you're going back into the station. So yeah, that was the ride. It was a really good Intamin ride. Is it better than like, for example, Toutatis or Taron? That's a difficult one. Taron is ridiculously good with the whole layout and the fast sudden drops and sudden turns and twists and all that kind of stuff. Toutatis, I believe Toutatis is still better than Batman Gotham City Escape. Toutatis in Parc Astérix to me felt like a bit more intense, a bit more faster. The layout was a bit better paced, but still Batman Gotham City Escape is really amazing. It's really a good ride. I would say in my top 5 coaster ranking, it would be on the 5th place, Batman Gotham City Escape. So at number 1, I would put like Ride to Happiness in Pop Santa Pana. At number 2, I have Toutatis. At 3, I have Taron in Phantasialand, which I think is a little bit better than Batman Gotham City Escape. At 4, I have El Toro in Great Adventure, which I was blown away by. It's such a good coaster. And at 5, I would put Batman Gotham City Escape. So it's not the best coaster I did so far, but it's still really, really good. And just for this coaster, I would go back to Madrid already. So yeah, that was my fun day in Parque Warner Madrid. Let's score everything a bit. First of all, rides. Overall, great selection of rides. I give it a 4 out of 5. It's more focused on thrills and that is more my kind of stuff, but also a great selection of rides for kids, for families. It's very well balanced. Also some pretty unique rides like Stunt Fall, Batman Gotham City Escape. Great rides, 4 out of 5. My favorite rides, of course, both Batman coasters, Stunt Fall, Rapid River, the Super Flume. Love those rides. The rides that were not worth a re-ride or the top spin. I didn't talk about top spin, but it's just top spin. It's a really tame top spin, to be honest. Correcaminos Bip Bip, Coaster Express, and Superman. Not sure about that one. Then the service, like the cleanness of the park, the capacity of the rides, the staff, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. The park looked clean, staff was friendly at places, but capacity on the rides was pretty awful at some point. The drop tower only used 1 tower, the Coaster Express only used 1 train. Batman also had slow dispatches, maybe because it was a new ride, I don't know. Stunt Fall only was getting dispatched when the train was full. So yeah, food and drinks also 3.5 out of 5. It has some nice options, but it's also a bit expensive, especially when it comes to drinks. We drank a lot because it was a hot day and drinks were quite expensive. The park atmosphere, so the look, the theming, the environment, I give it a 4 out of 5. The park has some great theming. Some places could use a bit more of a revamp, like the Superman part and such. It looked a bit old. Also the entrance area looked a bit dull, and the Stunt Fall area also looked kind of lackluster either. It can use some renovations here and there. But overall I was really surprised by the park and I really enjoyed it. Was it worth a revisit? Absolutely, for sure. It has some great coasters which ended up in my top 20s and Batman Gotham City Escape in my top 5. So it's definitely worth the revisit and I will be back soon. I'm sure about that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my review. If you like this video, I would very much appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up, if you subscribe, if you want to see more of my videos. You can also watch some VR 360-degree on-ride videos on this channel, which is pretty cool, especially with like a headset. And yeah, maybe we'll see each other soon in a theme park or on this channel. Who knows? I'm really looking forward to that. And see you guys soon. See ya!